The night that changed everything began like any other. I found myself in the usual existential struggle that so many others have faced before me. Caught between what I wanted to do with my life and what I felt I should do to survive, I reluctantly joined the rat race. While pursuing an accounting major at Laramie Community College in Cheyenne, Colorado, I found myself stuck in the mundane routine of driving for Uber to make ends meet. The dream of becoming a sculptor, of showcasing my work at expos in Denver, seemed to slip further away with every rude customer, one-star rating, or messy car left in my wake. The funds that could have fueled my passion were diverted to cover tuition, books, and the ever-changing software programs demanded by professors. It was a soul-crushing existence, leaving me questioning the choices that led me down this path. One fateful night, after a sleepless bout of questioning my life's direction, I found myself just a few trips away from a lucrative Uber promotion. The promise of extra income and a chance to take a break from the 4 a.m. wake-up calls spurred me into action. Little did I know, this decision would catapult me into a nightmarish encounter that defied all logic. As I navigated the winding roads, transporting a passenger from Denver to a mountainside cabin, I had no idea that my reality was about to shift. In the blink of an eye, a collision with an otherworldly creature disrupted the ordinary course of my night. What I thought was a mere animal turned out to be a colossal, 8-foot-tall being with blood-red eyes, a snarl that sent shivers down my spine, and a presence that felt like pure malevolence. Despite the creature's apparent demise, it rose from the impact unscathed, standing on hind legs and staring at me with an intensity that froze my heart. Its unnatural features, a bizarre blend of wolf and man, defied everything I thought I knew about the natural world. The ensuing pursuit, with the creature chasing me at breakneck speed, shattered any semblance of reality I clung to. I sped down the mountain, desperately trying to escape this monstrous entity that seemed impervious to the laws of nature. It pursued me relentlessly, its red eyes glaring through my rearview mirror, a constant reminder of the surreal nightmare unfolding. At every turn, it closed the gap, its growls echoing the malevolent force propelling it forward. In a desperate attempt to shake off my pursuer, I encountered a semi-truck, the unexpected savior that collided with the creature. For a fleeting moment, relief washed over me as I thought the ordeal was over. Little did I know, the true horror had just begun. As I continued my journey, the creature reappeared, relentless in its pursuit. The realization that it harbored not only physical prowess but also a chilling sentience intensified my terror. It crashed through my car window, leaving me with no option but to speed away, narrowly escaping its monstrous clutches. With each passing mile, my mind raced, grappling with the inconceivable reality of a creature that shouldn't exist. The creature's howls, now hauntingly close, pierced the night, creating a symphony of terror that resonated through the woods. Every step I took, every sound I heard, fueled my paranoia, as the line between nightmare and reality blurred. Finally reaching the safety of my home, I believed the worst was behind me. Little did I know that the creature, fueled by an insatiable hatred, had followed me. It pounded on my doors, relentless in its pursuit, threatening to shatter the thin barrier between me and unspeakable horror. Faced with the inevitability of its entry, I made a daring decision. Bursting out of my home, I confronted the creature head-on, armed with a revolver. In those intense moments, with the beast tearing through my sanctuary, I vowed not to become its prey. The cellar doors offered a fleeting refuge, a last resort to escape the clutches of a creature that defied reason. As the creature relentlessly battered the cellar doors, I knew it was a matter of time before they gave way. The struggle between survival and impending doom reached its climax. With the break of dawn, a pause fell over the chaos, and the creature vanished. I collapsed, overcome with a mix of relief and disbelief at having survived a night that defied the laws of nature. In the aftermath, my house underwent repairs, but the scars of that night lingered. The fear of the creature's return weighed heavy on my mind. Despite the sun's warmth, the daylight failed to dispel the shadows that haunted my thoughts. As I looked for a new place, far from the woods that harbored unspeakable horrors, the echoes of that night lingered, a chilling reminder of a reality forever changed. The day began with a sense of excitement as I prepared for a solo hike in the nearby forest. My wife, June, had convinced me that a little cottage in the woods would be the perfect escape, a haven for our quiet life with a few cats. Despite our numerous relocations across the country, the allure of nature always pulled me in. On that particular morning, I couldn't contain my enthusiasm. The idea of exploring a new forest filled me with a sense of wonder. The night before, I meticulously packed my essentials, double-checking everything. June, ever the pragmatic one, ran through the checklist of must-have items: water, food, first aid. She gave me a silent look, nodding toward the closet where my hiking gear was kept. The one item she never approved of was the gun I always carried for safety. As I kissed her goodbye, she asked about the weather forecast. Clear skies and mild winds, I assured her, adding, "It isn't my first rodeo." Driving to the local national park, I marveled at the natural beauty surrounding me. The park ranger, a friendly face, welcomed me, offering a map and a few words of advice about sticking to the trails. I chose the most challenging route, a 6-hour trek with steep inclines and rough terrain, eager to experience the forest's untouched beauty. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the sounds of nature accompanied me, birds singing, bushes rustling. After a few hours, I reached a clearing that afforded a stunning view of the town. I snapped a photo and sent it to June with a message: "Reached." The excitement filled my heart as I continued, capturing picturesque moments of streams, birds, and sunlight filtering through the trees. However, my journey took an unexpected turn as I discovered a small break in the shrubbery. Intrigued, I ventured a few meters in, ensuring not to lose sight of the trail. The silence that enveloped me was unsettling, a stark contrast to the previous cacophony of nature. Instinctively, my mind went into defense mode. Was there a predator nearby? As I fumbled for my phone to check the weather, I noticed a peculiar shift. The wind picked up, and mild white flakes turned into a relentless blizzard. The trail, now covered in knee-deep snow, left me bewildered. The once clear sky turned gray, and the forest transformed into an otherworldly winter landscape. Struggling against the biting wind, I sought refuge in a small break in the trees. Surprisingly, it felt warmer there, a stark contrast to the howling blizzard outside. As I moved deeper into the forest, the strangeness continued. The snowfall stopped abruptly, and the darkness persisted, creating an eerie atmosphere. In my disoriented state, I realized something odd: my gun, usually on my left hip, was now on my right. Dismissing it as a minor detail, I pressed on, hoping to find warmth and answers. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a fenced-off cabin, surrounded by barbed wire and floodlights. The warning signs screamed at me, "Do not disturb, trespassers will be." And a crude sign that simply read, "Don't." Ignoring the warnings, I climbed the fence, desperate for shelter. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere changed. The snow outside ceased, the wind died away, and an inexplicable darkness lingered. A mat with a strange pattern, no fireplace despite the chimney smoke, everything felt surreal. On the wall, warnings vanished, leaving only one message: Jimmy was here. Scared. Love you, Mandy. As I explored further, I stumbled upon a trapdoor beneath a mat, leading to a space below. Something lurked there, and my panic escalated. Racing back to the front door, I witnessed dark, leathery figures outside, motionless yet ominous. Luna, a cat from our past, appeared inside, and the creatures seemed to protect me from the unknown entity in the cabin. Terrified, I shot at the creatures, and they backed off. Rushing to the fence, they didn't pursue me further. As I staggered away, the park ranger and a group of people found me, explaining that I had been missing for 4 days. Confused and traumatized, I returned home with June, trying to make sense of the inexplicable events. Months passed, but the mysteries lingered. A haunting photograph revealed a distant figure, and a cryptic message arrived, urging us not to forget. The forest's secrets continued to whisper in the shadows, leaving us in a perpetual state of unease. I was a young mother living in rural Pennsylvania, nestled in the quiet embrace of the countryside. Our lives took an unexpected turn when my husband suffered a terrible work accident, breaking his leg and rendering him on disability. Despite the challenges, we embarked on the journey of building a log cabin home on some acreage at the base of a ridgeline. Our property was a considerable distance from the main road. To reach our haven, one had to turn off the 2-lane road onto a winding country lane. This would lead to our driveway, a path that meandered through a canopy of trees and delved into the deep woods where our home was beginning to take shape. The cabin, though far from completion, became our refuge as we struggled to make ends meet while living amid the ongoing construction. As the sole provider for my family, I needed to find work. Fate, in its peculiar way, led me to the only available job at the time, the overnight shift at a local factory. The shift commenced at 11 p.m. every Friday night, and that particular night etched an experience into my memory that still sends shivers down my spine. I eased out of our driveway onto the familiar country lane, making a left turn onto the 2-lane road that would wind around bends and hills, eventually leading me back to town. The route was so ingrained in my routine that I navigated it with ease, until I approached the first intersection. The intersection was marked by a 3-way stop sign, where another country road descended from the ridge. I had stopped at this junction countless times before, always pausing and looking up the hill. However, this time, something felt different. In the darkness, I noticed the faint glow of tail lights blocking my way to the stop sign. The car in front of me seemed to have been stationary for an unusually long time. Puzzled, I wondered why they hadn't moved. No hazard lights or signals indicated any issues, yet they remained still. As I contemplated the situation, the driver's door opened, and a large man emerged. His appearance was rugged, not unlike the hard-working country folk I often encountered, but an unease settled in as he began walking toward my car. I rolled my window down a crack, anticipation mingling with a growing sense of concern. He peered down at me through the darkened window, assessing me as if trying to gauge my vulnerability. His gaze briefly shifted to the back of my car, checking if I was alone. At this point, I still harbored a cautious curiosity, unsure of the unfolding events. The man started describing some vague car trouble, and without thinking, I began explaining that I was not equipped to help with any mechanical issues. His request for jumper cables, however, set off an alarm bell in my mind. His car's lights were on, visible from a distance as I approached the intersection. There were no signs of a dead battery, and if it were the case, his lights would be dim or flickering. Instead, they remained bright. A sense of unease heightened as he persisted in his demand for assistance. His tone shifted from a mere request to an assertive insistence. This was not the plea of someone genuinely stranded but a commanding voice that simultaneously scared and irritated me. Fearing the worst, I firmly refused, my voice tinged with panic as I explained that I was already late for work. In that tense moment, I noticed movement near my passenger door. Glancing over, I saw another man attempting to open it. Panic surged within me. Without second-guessing, I slammed the car into drive, forcefully pressing my foot onto the accelerator. The wheels screeched as I swerved around the parked car, driving blindly through the quiet intersection. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I glanced into the rearview mirror to gauge the situation. The headlights of the men's car faded into the distance as I sped away, navigating the winding two-lane road that led into town. The fear lingered, but I knew I had to shake any pursuers. After a few bends, I hastily turned onto another country lane, a back route that wound around a golf course, providing a different path into town. As the streetlights and businesses emerged, a wave of relief washed over me. The reality of the situation sank in, and I found myself pulling into my workplace's parking lot. Tears streamed down my face as I turned off the engine, overwhelmed by a mix of fear and gratitude. A compassionate coworker noticed my distress and guided me out of the car. In the safety of the building, I recounted the chilling encounter to her and the on-duty manager. They assisted me in contacting the police to report the incident and, later, in reaching out to my husband to share the unnerving experience. The night offered no solace, but I chose to stay, driven by the necessity of providing for my family and a reluctance to face the same route again so soon. A trip to the bathroom allowed me a moment to collect myself, wiping away the remnants of fear from my face. With trepidation, I proceeded to work, enduring the long night with a heightened sense of awareness. Morning brought both relief and reflection. As I drove home, I held my husband and son close, grateful for their safety and my own. The incident served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life and the need to remain vigilant, especially in secluded areas. I counted my lucky stars that night and continued to drive that route to work over the next 30 years. Through the passing years, the memory of that fateful night faded into the background of my daily life. Most times, the incident lay dormant in my thoughts as I navigated the familiar stop sign. However, the story lived on, retold not only as a cautionary tale but as a reminder to my sons and their families. The hope is that the lessons learned from that night would instill a sense of caution and safety in their travels, ensuring that the echoes of that harrowing experience reverberate through the generations. My name is Mikey, and at 17, I call a small town surrounded by dense forests and woods my home. In our little community, hunting is more than a pastime, it's practically a way of life. In fact, our school even gives us a few days off early in the year to let kids like me join their families in the age-old tradition of hunting. Now, why am I giving you all this background? Well, it'll make sense soon, trust me. About a year ago, I was hanging out with my buddies, Ethan, Zach, and Josh. Living in a town where excitement is a rare commodity, we often found ourselves resorting to more adventurous, albeit illegal, activities. This particular day was no different. Boredom led us to the decision to explore an abandoned cabin in the woods. A friend had told us about it earlier, providing an address and a fair warning about the steep and muddy trek through the woods. We grabbed our beat-up sneakers, piled into the car, and drove about 20 minutes into the countryside. As we approached the destination, the passing cars dwindled, and just as we parked on the side of the road, we lost all cell phone service. Undeterred, we embarked on the steep hill, confirming our friend's warning about the challenging terrain. After a 20 to 30 minute climb, we reached the top and were met with a sight that made the journey worthwhile, a beautiful cabin. Carved wooden statues adorned the entrance, and a unique copper roof suggested it might have once been a vacation home. However, its dilapidated state hinted at abandonment, though a touch of renovation could have easily brought it back to life. Without hesitation, we entered through a broken wall into what seemed like the main living room. If you ignored the exterior, it could pass for a hotel lobby. With darkness setting in, we turned on our phone flashlights and started documenting our impromptu adventure. Our curiosity led us to the basement, a decision spurred by Zach's insistence. As we approached the basement door, an unusual chill emanated from the darkness beneath, creating an inexplicable sense of unease. After some debate about whether to leave the door closed or not, we mustered the courage to open it. Ethan, the bravest among us that night, slowly creaked the door open. What awaited us was a dark abyss, with only a faint green glow flickering around the corner. As I led the group, turning my head to catch a glimpse of what lay ahead, an enormous stomping sound jolted us. I screamed, and a collective decision to run echoed through the basement. Stomping sounds followed, and we raced up the stairs, fear propelling us to the top of the hill. As we huddled there, catching our breaths, we noticed the person pursuing us was no longer behind. In any normal situation, we would have bolted, but the rush of adrenaline was intoxicating. Our town rarely offered such excitement. In the darkness, we lay silently, staring at the cabin. Something inside scraped against the wood, and a man emerged, dragging a large trash bag. It could have been anything, a body, a deer, but Zach suggested the latter. The man hurriedly loaded the bag onto a four-wheeler, revealing a disturbing amount of blood on the pavement, as if someone had been dragged across it. After this surreal experience, we cautiously made our way back to the car and eventually home. Now, a year later, we don't dwell on it much, but the memory recently resurfaced in a conversation at school. To our surprise, no one believed us, despite all of us swearing it happened. We never reported it to our parents or the police, fearing repercussions for trespassing. Sharing this experience here, I'm curious to know what others think.